Okay, so get ready, because today we're taking a deep dive into something you might not expect, beef tallow. You know we love to dig into the history and science behind everyday things, and you guys sent us a ton of stuff about beef tallow. Apparently it's making a comeback, and not just in the kitchen.
Right, from skincare to even biodiesel, it's pretty fascinating.
It really is. And I have to say, my curiosity is officially piqued. But let's back up a bit for a sec. We're seeing this resurgence of interest in all sorts of traditional foods and practices.
Yeah, like we're rediscovering the value of things our grandparents swore by. Beef tallow is a prime example.
It's true. Remember when everything had to be low fat no matter what? Now it's like we're circling back, realizing maybe we overshot the runway a bit.
Definitely.
But before we get into all that, for anyone who hasn't heard of it, what exactly is beef tallow?
So in the simplest terms, it's rendered beef fat. It mainly comes from around the kidneys and other organs of the cow. Think of it as kind of like a more concentrated form of that fat you'd trim off a steak.
So we're talking pure, unadulterated beef fat here. No additives or anything like that.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. So what made this pure beef fat such a kitchen staple for so long?
It all comes down to one word: versatility. For centuries, it was the go-to fat for pretty much everything in the kitchen, from frying to baking, and for good reason.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It has this incredibly high smoke point, around 400 degrees Fahrenheit. That means it's super stable even at high temperatures.
Okay, I have to stop you right there for a sec. Can you break that down for me? What does a high smoke point actually mean for the average home cook? Like, why should I care?
Good point. It's all about those delicious browning reactions we love in cooking. You know how when you sear a steak, you want that nice crust, or when you fry potatoes, you want them crispy?
Oh, absolutely.
That's where the smoke point comes in. With tallow, you can really crank up the heat without the fat breaking down and creating all those harmful compounds you get with some oils.
So that's the secret behind those legendary tallow fried French fries they always talk about.
Exactly. It's what gives you those crispy edges and that rich, savory flavor that's so hard to replicate.
So you're saying it's really that much better than using vegetable oil? Like, what's
Yeah.
the difference?
Well, for one, the taste is just different. Tallow has this unique, rich flavor profile that you just can't get with vegetable oils. It adds this incredible depth and savoriness to dishes, especially meats, that really enhances the overall taste experience.
Now that you mention it, I do remember my grandmother swearing by tallow for her fried chicken. Said it added a certain je ne sais quoi that you just couldn't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
But it's not just about frying, right?
Oh, absolutely not. Tallow is a powerhouse in so many other culinary applications. Like, think about adding a dollop to your next stew or soup.
Okay, yeah.
It adds this richness and depth of flavor that's just incredible. Or how about swapping it for butter in your next pie crust recipe?
Pie crust. Wait, are you serious?
I'm totally serious. Tallow makes the flakiest, most melt-in-your-mouth pie crusts you'll ever have.
Really? How does that work?
It has to do with its molecular structure and a higher melting point compared to butter. So as the pastry bakes, those little pockets of tallow melt slowly and create those airy, flaky layers that we all crave.
See, this is why I love these deep dives. It's like pure culinary chemistry in action.
It really is fascinating, and it speaks to this whole resurgence of interest in understanding the why behind our food choices. It's not just about blindly following recipes anymore. People want to understand the science and the tradition behind them.
And speaking of tradition, you mentioned tallow was a kitchen staple for centuries. But here's where things took a turn for the unexpected. Apparently, people weren't just cooking with this stuff.
People were using it for everything from skincare to machinery. It's really kind of amazing when you think about it, like how resourceful they were back then.
Okay, you have to elaborate on that skincare part because I am having trouble picturing this.
Yeah.
We're talking about putting animal fat on our faces here.
I know. It sounds a little strange at first, right?
Just
But there's actually a really good reason for it. So beef tallow, it shares a remarkably similar composition to sebum.
sebum.
Yeah.
Okay, for those of us who maybe skipped that day in biology class, what exactly are we talking about here?
So sebum is basically your skin's natural moisturizer. It's this oily, waxy substance that your skin produces to keep it hydrated and supple and protected.
Okay.
And because tallow is so similar in structure, it can actually penetrate the skin really deeply and be absorbed easily. And that's not true of all oils, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, like some plant-based oils, they just kind of sit on the surface.
Interesting.
But tallow, it's like nature's moisturizer. It's almost like it's formulated to work with your skin.
So it's like this perfect match made, well, not in heaven, but you know what I mean.
Exactly.
But okay, let's say I'm convinced and I'm ready to, break out the beef tallow face mask.
Yeah.
What are the benefits besides, smelling vaguely of a steak?
Well, for one, it's absolutely packed with nutrients that are beneficial for your skin.
Okay, like what?
We're talking vitamins A, D, E, and K. It's like a multivitamin for your face.
Wow.
Plus, it's a good source of something called conjugated linoleic acid, or CLA.
CLA, right. I've heard of that. It's one of those, like, trendy, good-for-you things, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's been getting a lot of attention lately, especially for its anti-inflammatory properties.
Okay, so we've got the vitamins, the CLA. Everyone loves a good anti-inflammatory.
Oh.
But this wouldn't be a proper deep dive if we didn't, dig a little deeper into the science here. What's so special about this CLA? What does it actually do?
Well, studies have shown that when you apply it topically, CLA can help calm inflammation and redness, which is great for anyone dealing with skin conditions like acne or eczema.
Interesting.
Some people even say that it can reduce the appearance of wrinkles.
Oh, wow. Sign me up.
Right. Now, more research is always being done, but the initial findings are really promising.
No wonder people are putting this stuff in everything. I've seen it in face creams and balms and soaps.
Yeah.
And even hair conditioners. It's like the Swiss Army knife of beauty products.
It's true.
Okay, but let's talk about those other, let's say, less conventional uses for a minute. You mentioned candles and lubricant. Like, seriously.
It's true. It's true. Tallow candles have actually been around for centuries. They burn really cleanly and slowly. And a lot of people prefer their scent to modern paraffin candles, which can have all sorts of artificial fragrances.
So it's like the OG scented candle. What about this whole lubricant thing? How does beef fat even work as, like, a lubricant?
You'd be surprised. Tallow naturally has these lubricating properties that make it really effective for certain things. Like in the past, it was used for lubricating machinery or even conditioning leather.
Wow.
It was especially useful before we had all these synthetic lubricants that are readily available today.
Talk about resourceful.
Yeah.
Our ancestors were really onto something with this whole tallow thing. But then why did it disappear for so long? Like, was it just clever marketing from the vegetable oil industry? Or is there more to the story? Was it just clever marketing from the vegetable oil industry, or is there more to the story?
Honestly, it's probably a bit of both. I mean, the marketing push for vegetable oils, that definitely played a role. But there are a few other things to consider, too. For one, convenience.
Okay, how so?
Well, as processed foods started to, really take off, so did the oils used to make them.
Right, like those big convenient jugs of oil you see in the grocery store.
Exactly. And on the flip side, you had these traditional fats like tallow and lard, which weren't as shelf-stable or easy to package.
So they kind of got lost in the shuffle.
Exactly. Plus, let's not forget about all the messaging around saturated fat.
Ah, right.
But for decades, it was like the ultimate dietary villain. But here's the thing. Recent research has started to paint a more, shall we say, nuanced picture of fat.
Okay, so spill the tea. What's the deal with saturated fat? Is it the enemy after all, or what?
Well, like most things in nutrition, it's not so black and white. We're starting to realize that not all saturated fats are created equal.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that in moderation, they can actually be a part of a healthy diet. And some saturated fats, like those found in tallow, especially from grass-fed cows, they even offer some unique benefits.
You're talking about those good fats, right? The ones we hear about in things like avocados and olive oil.
Exactly. We talked about CLA earlier and its anti-inflammatory effects. But grass-fed tallow also contains other beneficial fatty acids.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, one example is palmitoleic acid.
Okay, and what's so special about that one?
It's thought to have antimicrobial and even immune-boosting properties. So it's not just good for you on the outside, it can be good for you on the inside too.
Fascinating. So it seems like this whole tallow comeback, it's not just about nostalgia or jumping on a trend. There are some legitimate reasons why people are bringing it back into their kitchens and, their bathrooms. It's like this forgotten super ingredient that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time.
Totally. I think it's part of a bigger movement, It's like we're seeing this shift towards a more mindful approach to food. People are rediscovering these traditional practices like whole animal eating. They're questioning the dominance of processed ingredients and really trying to reconnect with their food in a more meaningful way.
Yeah, it's like we're coming full circle, reconnecting with our culinary roots and realizing that maybe, just maybe, our ancestors were onto something after all.
Right.
So where does that leave us? Is beef tallow the answer to all our modern-day woes?
Okay, I wouldn't go that far. It's definitely not a magic bullet. And it's important for everyone to remember that everyone's nutritional needs are different. But I think with its versatility and its potential health benefits and its connection to sustainable food practices, beef tallow definitely deserves a spot at the table, so to speak.
Well said. And that, my friend, is what the deep dive is all about. Sparking your curiosity, digging deeper into these everyday things, and empowering you with the knowledge to form your own conclusions. Who knew we could uncover so much from a simple dollop of beef fat?
You never know where these deep dives will take us.
That's for sure. Well, that's all the time we have for today. But don't worry, we'll be back next week with another deep dive into a new and fascinating topic. Until then, keep those questions coming and keep on exploring.